Hi, and welcome to the Creative Crafters podcast. Today, I am so excited. I am interviewing Jav Sid, and she is, of course, part of Cut and Make Crafts. Now, a little bit about Jav. She is the ultimate SVG business coach and crafty blogger extraordinaire. And with an unstoppable passion for all things passive income, she's the crafting wizard you've been waiting for. Get ready to embark on a thrilling journey of creativity as she guides crafters through the mesmerizing world of SVG cut files in Affinity Designer. Her mission? To empower crafters with full-time jobs, turning their SVG design skills into passive income. Let's craft, laugh, and bank some serious dough together with Javs. So welcome, Jav. I am so excited to have you here. So
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me.
please tell the listeners who you are and all about your company, just so we get I know you've got Cut and Make Crafts, but I know there's so much more than just what I read. So fill us in.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful being here and sharing a little info about me. So I am Jeff from Cut and Make Crafts, and I help crafters with full-time jobs make passive income from SVG cut files. And I teach SVG designing in Affinity Designer, which I've been using for the past 8+ years.
Wow, that's amazing. So 8 years, and SVG is a really hot topic with all kinds of summits and workshops. So you're the perfect person to go to. So when did you become interested in the SVG portion of crafting?
So I started Cricut crafting back in 2018. Before that, I was designing and selling sewing patterns on my sewing blog that's called Sew Some Stuff. And then in 2018, I got myself a Cricut to cut out the sewing patterns. That was the main intention behind getting the Cricut. But when I jumped into the Cricut world, I discovered all these amazing paper crafts. And I was like, oh my God, this is the time to get onto paper crafting, because I was always amazed by all the paper crafts that I used to come across, but I don't like cutting by hand, so I never bothered. But when I got my Cricut, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the time. And I started doing some paper crafts. I started sharing SVGs. And since I already had experience in designing digital sewing patterns, it was very easy for me to apply the skills into designing SVGs. And then I started creating SVG cut files, and I launched a new blog in 2019, the Cut and Make Crafts. I started it in January 2019. And yes, it just took off since then. And I just transitioned from selling sewing patterns to selling SVGs.
So do you still do a lot of sewing patterns with your SVG files at all?
Not at all. I got so hooked into paper crafting that I had to say goodbye to sewing completely.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I love the paper crafts as well. So when you're imagining what project you want to create, sort of how do you go through the thought process? So, and where do you get your ideas?
I love that question. So I try to stick to the trends, what is trending right now. So I usually go and, you know, browse through the Facebook groups, do a little research inside the Facebook groups and see what people are actually creating. And then I try to take that idea and put my own spin to it. So, for example, a lot of the candy dome crafts are pretty popular these days. So for Mother's Day, what I did was I created a mama and baby candy domes, which I didn't find in the market anywhere. So I just took the candy dome idea and I just modified it to fit into the Mother's Day theme. So it was like a baby koala and mommy koala together, and baby bear, mommy bear together in a candy dome kind of thing. So that's just like a one example of how I get my ideas.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because I do a lot of that too, as I look in Facebook and see what's coming up on my feed. And I thought, oh, that's a great idea. And I get ideas from you, believe it or not, and go, oh, I wonder if I can do something like that for my audience. And that's an important part of it as well, is getting those ideas. So what motivates you to create stuff?
Mainly, I mean, sometimes it is just business. You gotta do it. You know, you gotta show up because it's your business. And sometimes it's just fun. Like, for my summit, which is happening in September, I am doing around 14 to 15 tutorials myself. And I'm just having fun in the process because I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to create this, I need to create that. Uh, this is what if I do this part? There's so many ideas that I'm getting, and I just want to have fun. And I feel like doing all of the crafting tutorials. So it varies. Sometimes it's just for fun, and sometimes it's business.
Yeah, exactly. I find the business part sometimes really draining at times. You get a list of 6 or 7 things you want to do, and then when you go to do it, all of a sudden an idea will spark and you go in a different direction altogether. So I
Mhm.
totally understand. Um, let's see. What is the most challenging aspect of the work you're doing right now?
Right now, do you mean the summit?
Oh, summits or just your day to day. What do you find the most challenging?
Most challenging part would be getting new leads. That is one of has been the most difficult parts, getting leads to my webinar, my automated funnel, and uh, getting that funnel up and running. I mean, getting the funnel continuously running throughout the year. That has been my biggest thing. And as far as the summits goes, just looking for speakers and collaborating with speakers. Like sometimes, because I have been always an introvert, and I'm like, oh, I don't need to collaborate with anyone. I'm good doing doing things my way in my own world. But then the summits come along, and you're like, oh, you have to go and collaborate. So I'm still in like my introverted phase, and it still makes me uncomfortable. But gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, exactly. So there's obviously, if there's a challenge, there's a reward on the other side. So are you still selling your SVG cut designs as well as just participating in summits? You must have other things that the income for your
Mhm.
blog.
Yeah. So I do have my shop. My shop is still running in the background, but I have stopped promoting my shop for like more than a year. And whatever sales I'm getting, they're just like automatic on their own. Like yesterday, I just got a sale. I sold a bundle for $15, just like that. So I do get sales here and there, but I'm not actively promoting my shop. But I need to get back to that because now I have a VA and I can just delegate the task to her and get her to do all the uploading and stuff because I really don't have time for that anymore. I'm focusing more on the summits as of
Yeah.
now.
Now, do you have courses or any other things that you offer, especially when you're talking about let's make some serious dough together? Um,
Mhm.
I know it's not just summits, so are there
Yeah.
classes or something our listeners can take?
Yes, absolutely. So I teach SVG designing in Affinity Designer, and I've got like a mini course on designing SVGs. Even if you're a beginner, you have never designed anything, this is the course for you. You can learn to design SVGs in Affinity Designer in less than 30 days. I have people come in and in literally less than a week, they start creating such beautiful pieces. So if you are someone who wants to learn SVG designing, especially in Affinity Designer, which is like the most professional and affordable software out there, then definitely come check out my free masterclass. And I also have a business coaching program where if you want to learn how to sell SVGs for consistent passive income, that is also something you can check out. It's a 12-month coaching program with lots of one-on-one coaching sessions with me to get you familiarized with how things work from the business side in selling when it comes to selling SVGs, and also you're going to learn the design aspects of selling SVGs, like designing literally every kind of design in Affinity Designer.
Wow, that sounds really fabulous, because that's something we all need, is to understand, sort of the basics and where to take it. A lot of people will do this for just a hobby, but there's a big segment of crafters like myself that want to make money with our crafting business. And this sounds like this would be the perfect place to start, especially on the SVG side, because the three hot topics today are SVG, sublimation, and HTV, and SVG
Yeah.
being number one, and you are the go-to person. So just one final question. What advice would you give someone who is interested in doing what you do?
One big advice is don't give up. Honestly, I see a lot of people who want to start making income from their side hustle, but they just give up too quickly. I swear, I have been this in this zone, like in this passive income zone. I started my digital journey back in 2013, 2014, and I've been growing slowly. Of course, other people have grown much more in much smaller time, but compared to that, I've grown slowly, but there has been a lot of growth. Like when in the first year that I started, I just made around $50, and now I'm making six figures. It took me 10 years to get here, but I got here. Like, it takes time. So don't think like, oh, I started my business today and 6 months from now I'm gonna start making six figures. It doesn't work like that. You have to give it some time. Make sure you allow yourself that amount of time. Start looking at things one at a time rather than focusing on your long term. Rather than focusing on the big income goal.
Those are great words, because just thinking of myself, I started, it was a craft supply business, and then in March 2020 we decided to move it over to the blog side of it. And of course, things like YouTube, we had 6 subscribers and my mailing list was 42 people. And you move forward 3 years, it grows. We've got 40,000 on our mailing list now, which is incredible, and 8,800 people on our YouTube channel. But the growth was really slow, and it's only in the last 6 months or so it's starting to get bigger, and then we'll get to where you are eventually, but we're just sticking by it, and I really love that advice. Well, thank you so much, Jav. And this is the Creative Crafters podcast. So you can get a hold of Jav through cutandmakecrafts.com. That's CUTNMAKECRAFTS.com. Bye.